Okay, we are here for episode 4 of the Courageous Womanhood podcast. I am so excited. Today we're talking all about living a life of joy, encouragement, and the power of our words. I am currently sitting here in a parking lot recording, so we'll see. I'm kind of in the far part of the parking lot, so we'll see how many stairs I get. All right, well, kind of to give you guys an update on everything. So this podcast is a week late due to the fact, so we were up in Alaska. God connected us with some youth groups up there back in February, and then they asked us to come be their guest speakers at their summer camp up there of over 150 youth. So we got to speak every session twice a day for 5 days, and then we also taught like some of our unique like BSC type skills in the afternoons, and it was so powerful. God moved like crazy. Over 30 youth ended up getting baptized, like so many. We talked about the whole theme of the youth camp was a life of surrender, and so we just talked about what does that really look like to live a life of surrender. And so many of these kids, like just like even identity confusion and like just things like that, we were just totally able to hammer what is biblical masculinity, what is godly courageous womanhood, what does that look like, and what does it look like to give your all for God. And at one point we even had like an altar call for those who, like, you know, they feel like you've got your fire insurance at one point, like you feel like, you know, but then you haven't actually given your life to God, like made him Lord of your life. And so many came forward, like 75 at least or more youth came forward, just like giving their whole life and surrendering to God. And I got to like speak to so many young gals and so many testimonies. And like one gal, she came up to me and she's like, after we had done that like surrender altar call, and let me double check something really quick. Just making sure it's recording because I was worried for a second. But anyways, she came up to me and she was like, honestly, I was kind of nervous and scared to come up and, you know, really surrender my life to God because I was scared of what my friends would think. And then I ended up leading her through just like repentance and full surrender. And then all of a sudden she just had like so much joy in her face. And she came up to me later and she was like, Claire, I just don't know. Like, I just feel so light. I feel so full of joy. And she ended up getting baptized, and it was just so awesome. And then on the last day, I was talking to her and she's like, I realized that God wasn't first in my life. So I broke up with my boyfriend this morning who was at the camp. And I was like, freaked out with excitement, like, yes, like that. I was just so thrilled and so excited. And then let's see, there was another gal who I was sitting there and counseling with, just different things, and she just struggled with, you know, self-hatred. Like I feel like a lot of women have, you know, have struggled with just like not loving who they see in the mirror. And so often they just try to look in the mirror and go, you're beautiful, like tell themselves that till they believe it. But I told her, I was like, you can't without like a renewing and a transforming your mind, and also repenting to God for how you have viewed yourself. Because when you say, like, I think I told this in another podcast, but like when you hate something about you and dislike something about who God made you, you're saying, hey, God, like you didn't do a good enough job on me. Like you literally are telling the creator of heaven and earth, the creator of the universe, hey, you messed up. And so we just went through like repentance of all of that. And then the next morning she just looked so much lighter and so free. And I asked her, I was like, so a few days, like I think 2 days later, she's like, I have to tell you what happened. And she's like, honestly, I went to bed and I just felt really heavy, but then in the morning, like I just felt like it clicked. And I looked, and all of a sudden I like walked by a mirror and I looked and I was like, wow, like I'm actually pretty beautiful. And I was like, she'd never thought that about herself. And it was just like so cool. And yeah, just so many stories of things like that. And one young man, he came and he was like on the border of atheism and just didn't believe in God and everything. And he just had a really rough family situation. And he ended up getting so touched by God, and that he wanted so badly to share his testimony at the end of how he gave his whole life to Jesus and surrender. And he's stayed in touch with Zadok, and yeah, just so many things. And then there was another gal who was talking to me, and she's like, people always talk about like feeling God and like God's presence and stuff like that. But like, I've never felt it. And like, what's it actually feel like? And I told her, I said, honestly, your faith and your walk with God cannot be based on if you feel anything. You may never feel anything. And like, I had to reach the point in my faith years ago where I said, God, if I never feel anything, if I never feel your presence, like, you're enough. Like, you gave your life for me. Like, that is enough. And that night I went up and I prayed for her during worship, and the Lord just hit her so powerfully. She got so rocked. She's just bawling her eyes out. And then she gets up on the mic and she's testifying how worthy God is. And I asked her about it, and I was like, isn't that so cool? Like, as you were like, what does God, can you feel God? And what is this? And then that night, the Lord totally radically touches her. And she's like, yeah, you put your hand on me, and I just felt like fire going through me, and I couldn't help but just cry. Like, she was just so overwhelmed by the presence of God. And so yeah, Alaska happened. And then we came back from Alaska, and a week and a half later, we started our Young Ladies Intensive course. We had 30 young ladies come out in the bush, learning to be radical missionaries, courageous women of God, be missionaries on the foreign field, and yeah, be courageous women of God who know their identity in King Jesus. And so yeah, that was amazing. 7 of them ended up getting baptized. Like, they'd all been baptized before, but we were talking to them about, like, sometimes we've got baptized, and like, for me personally, like, when you're young and you don't really know what baptism actually means. And so they got baptism of just like full surrender, like, God, like, full send. I am done with myself. And it was just so, so powerful. And then what was so cool is that at the end of the course, a gal that had been through BSC last year comes up to me, and she's like, I got to tell you what happened to me when I came to BSC. I was like, okay. And she's like, when I came, I just wasn't in an emotional, mental, physical, good place. And like, I knew that, because she had just had kind of a rough time when she was there. And she's like, and I'd been bleeding for 4 months. And then God, we were doing worship. We had this really powerful worship night at the, course she came through, and so many people just got rocked. And she said she'd been bleeding for 4 months. And then at that course we were praying, and none of us knew she needed healing, and instantly the bleeding stopped. I like freaked out. I was like, and I'm finding this out a year later, but come on, like, God is so cool. And I just like felt for this episode to like, yes, share stuff, but also to like share testimony. Like, God is so awesome, and like healings and stuff like that. I'm just like so incredibly amazed. Like, God is so awesome. And so I just wanted to like share some of that, to like, the harvest is ripe, the workers are few. It really is. Like, there are like, yeah, people need the gospel. And anyways, so I was going to look at my notes here. But yeah, so I just really want to talk about some stuff that's really on my heart, with kind of all has to do with like the power of our words and as women and stuff like that. So one thing that I was talking to people up in Alaska about is so many, and I've fallen into the same trap as a woman, being disgusted with young men in the church. I mean, like, there are no good guys out there, da 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 da. Instead of realizing I could be a solution to a problem. And someone told me a long time ago, they're like, don't come with a problem unless you come with 2 solutions. Because so often we just complain about a problem, but yet we never try to do anything to help the problem or solve the problem. And honestly, like, we as women towards each other and towards men can be very derogatory and not building up. And so that's where I just want to talk about, like, I'm mentioning this, but it ties into everything I'm saying of, ladies, we can be the solution. Like, when we see that, like, oh, we're frustrated with men's apathy, or men this or men that, you name it. Like, yes, they have to make their own choice, but we can also be an advocate for coming alongside men and building them into be men of God, instead of being these whiny, wimpy women who pull them down to where they, of course, they're apathetic. Of course, they don't do anything that you think they should do with their life, because we're negs and we're not a support system. And even as sisters, like, being encouraging towards our brothers and lifting them up, because words do have power. They have the power of life and death. And whether they acknowledge that it hurts them or not, it does. And we need to be speakers of life, not only over men, but over ourselves and over others. And so this is a story that's like my favorite, and I tell it all the time. And it has to do with thankfulness and the power of thankfulness and the power of encouragement. And there was this, so the story goes that there was this businessman, and he like worked for a big corporate business that was like in, one of those big skyscraper buildings. So his like sector, his area was this one floor in the building. And he really needed to increase sales and things like that because he was falling behind, and he was praying and asking the Lord, like, Lord, what do I do? And the Lord told him that after you clock out of work, you can't just leave. You need to stand at the door, and as every employee leaves, you need to shake their hand and thank them for coming to work and working. And he was like, but God, they're getting paid. They're supposed to work. Like, why would I thank them? Like, that's their job. Why would I thank them for doing their job that they're already supposed to do? But anyways, he listened to the Lord, and for I think over a month, he waited, he clocked out, and then on a personal level, thanked all of them for coming to work. And within a month, his section of the business, or whatever you call it, rose to like the top of that company. And the leadership came and was like, what are you doing? Like, your sales have gone through the roof. Like, how is this happening? And so he told them that he thanked them every day for coming to work. And it honestly just like really hit home for me, because like, we often wait to tell people that we appreciate them until they're dead. At their funerals, we talk about how great they were, but we never actually tell them to their face. And Zadok and I, we're so big on building an atmosphere of encouragement in our homes, in our relationships, in our workplaces, because there's proof right there that people actually perform better when they know they're appreciated. If any of you guys have worked a job, and some of you guys aren't even at the age where you've worked a job, but when you've worked a job and you're doing a good job and you know that like you kind of think your boss likes you, like obviously they haven't fired you, but they haven't once said, hey, you're doing a good job. Thanks for coming to work. Thanks for working for us. It honestly is like, makes you go, man, am I even appreciated? It makes it sometimes where it's like, it's hard to continue putting in 100% when you don't even know if anyone's appreciating it. And so we talk about that at BSC because often we just never utter thankfulness. And so my commission to you guys is with your siblings, with if you're married, with whoever it is, instead of just going, oh, they already know that I'm thankful for them, or they know they're supposed to take out the trash, they know that I'm grateful. Tell them hey, thanks so much for taking out the trash. Even though they're supposed to take out the trash, thank them when they do something kind, when they make a meal, when they wash the dishes. And when your husband comes home from work, if you're married, hey, hon, thank you so much for going to work and working hard. I'm so proud of you and thankful for you. You do not realize how much it will change your life when you do it with your friends, if you're a parent, if you do it to your children, and as a single person, doing it to your siblings, doing it to your friends. And it is shocking how few people, especially girls, have ever heard another girl compliment them. And so at BSC, what we do at the end is we have them go around in their platoons, which is a group of about 8 to 10 people. And they go around and they say every person has to take a turn complimenting another person. Everyone has to say a compliment about one person. If they go around in a circle. Anyways. And you would be shocked at how many people have never really been encouraged in their life and actually had someone go hey, you're beautiful like you, or you have such a servant heart and you're so kind, and you don't realize how much that means. So I encourage you, after you go forth from this, find a friend or every friend you encounter, make this a habit in your life of when someone, even the worker at the coffee shop, hey, thank you so much. Thank you. You have an amazing smile. Actually encouraging people. You do not realize how far this will take you in life. You will succeed. Others will succeed. So without even mentioning hey, I'm going to start encouraging more, start living that now. When you notice that someone does a good job, thank them, encourage them. At BSC, us staff and those who've come through BSC can attest to this, where I was hey, you're awesome. Fist bump. We're so glad that you're here, and things like that. You do not realize, we got to build up that atmosphere of encouragement. And in Zadok and I's relationship, we're always hey, you're awesome. Anyone who's been around us for a period of time, they'll hear that we're always hey, you're awesome. Love you so much. You're doing a great job. Just even if they're not working on a project or producing something, just constantly being hey, you're awesome, and encouraging them. It is so powerful. And it's biblical and things let me make sure my thing is still recording. My thing is stopped recording on some podcasts at times, so I'm trying to check it more regularly. But it says in scripture, like, that we enter his gates with thanksgiving and praise. Like, it is a biblical principle to be thankful for everything in our life. Me and Zadok have made a habit when we first got married of every night or multiple times a day, or when we'd wake up and when we go to bed, be like, hey, what are you most thankful for today? And not the like, hey, God, the Bible. Like, everyone gives that answer of like, well, I'm thankful for God. No, but like, what are you truly thankful for? Like, today, I am so thankful for air conditioning. It is 91 degrees outside right now, and I'm sitting in a nice air-conditioned car recording this podcast instead of sweating like most people in other countries. And one person was talking to Zadok, and they're like, well, it's weird to like just be thankful because I know that other people have it worse than me. And that's not thankfulness going, well, someone else has it worse, so I better be thankful. Yes, but at the same time, that's not where our Thanksgiving comes from. It's like when we actually just truly go, wow, we are so blessed. Like, you don't have to, like, I don't have to go, oh, I'm so thankful for air conditioning, and in the back of my mind going, well, other people don't have air conditioning, so I definitely should be thankful for air conditioning. It's like, I'm so thankful for that. I'm so thankful for breath in my lungs. I'm so thankful for, food. I'm so thankful for this car that runs and like all the things in my life. Like, I'm so thankful for this camera, the ability that I have the ability to record a podcast, that I have the ability to encourage all of you guys that are listening. Like, what if we started every day just starting with thanksgiving? Like it says, we enter his gates with thanksgiving and praise. If you want to dwell in the presence of God, if you want to actually get closer to God and feel his presence, then you better start with thankfulness, because it's a biblical principle and a biblical concept. And it doesn't say that we enter his gates with realism and da-da-da-da-da. Like, so many people are like, well, if I'm being thankful and I'm all happy, then I'm not like living in realism. Like, my life's really hard, so I don't want to like, I'm like, are you kidding? Like, what reality are you living in? Are you living in kingdom reality or earthly reality? Because truth, if you live in this earthly reality, it's super depressing. What do you really have to be thankful for? Like, life is terrible. But if you live in kingdom reality of like, literally, this is just our temporary dwelling. We're just in our earth suits here. And literally, we're going to go to heaven. And so we get to use every moment that we have here on earth to glorify King Jesus. Like, of course, like, it's full of joy. But in building that muscle, like encouragement muscle and joy muscle is a muscle that you have to build. You do not come out of the womb being all thankful and selfless. You come out of the womb screaming at the top of your lungs for your mom to feed you. And you scream and you scream and you scream. Like, you don't come out like, oh, I'm going to be a servant. Like, you come out needing, and you come out like children come out selfish. Like, we as humans are automatically selfish. And so we, through the refining of the Lord and his work in our life, we become selfless. And it's something that we have to continue to do and really lay our life down. Like, love is patient, kind. Like, love is selfless. Love is not self-seeking. And, so yeah, like, you have to build that muscle of joy. You have to build that encouragement of seeing that, like, you know what? Life isn't all about you. And so many people, especially, like, it just annoys me. Like, so many people, like, base their their joy is based on their situation. Their joy is based off, like, oh, I hear this excuse from ladies all the time, especially, like, oh, how you doing? I'm fine. Well, why are you just fine? Well, I'm kind of, like, tired. I kind of, like, didn't get enough sleep last night. I'm like, and? So that is dictating your joy. And women with, like, hormones or periods, they use this whole excuse and everything. And I'm sorry, it's just excuses. Like, that is a circumstance. Like, God made your body to have periods, and so you can have children. And so why are you there just using it as an excuse to be a grump and no fun to be around? Like, joy is something you have to choose every single day. It does not mean you, like, it. I battled with it where you just want to kind of like sit in that glum state. And like 2 years ago, even, like, something would get me down and I'd be down for a day. Now it's like, you know what, 20 minutes or less. Like, I'm not letting the enemy have place in my life. Like, I am not letting, like, lack of joy have a place at my table. Like, I am building an atmosphere of encouragement, an atmosphere of joy, because we enter his presence, we enter his gates with joy and with thanksgiving. Yeah, let's see. What else do we got here? Let me triple check that it's still recording. There we go, because it's kind of getting sun on it. So, and let's see. We have too many depressed Christians. Let me just tell you, with building joy, like, There are way too many depressed Christians. Like, why are you depressed as a believer? Like, yes, circumstances can be bad and sad, and I've been through a lot of bad, like, rough things and struggles. But that does not mean that King Jesus didn't save me and that King Jesus is still on the throne and I get to go live with him through eternity. Like, that's kingdom reality. Like, why would you be depressed? And we're called to be ambassadors here on earth of the kingdom of heaven, but yet we're so depressed. And I'm like, how does that represent the kingdom of heaven? Like, why would I want to be, like, why would an unbeliever want to become a Christian when all the Christians they see are, like, depressed and sad and glum? Like, how do we stand out as believers? We should be, like, have you ever been in a store and you see someone and they just have the light and joy of the Lord in their eyes? Like, what if that was everyone? Like, a lot of people, a lot of believers do not have that. And we get that by building an attitude of joy and thanksgiving. Where I'm like, you can't, like, devil, discouragement, you can't rain on my sunshine. No, you cannot rain on my sunshine. Because I have the sunshine and the joy of the Lord in my soul. And nothing can damper that. Because guess what? No matter what exterior things happen, Jesus is still king. Jesus still lives inside of me. Like, I have the joy of the Lord that is not circumstantial. Joy cannot be circumstantial. Joy is a reality that we live in, of the reality of the kingdom of heaven. And so, yeah, if people need to be able to meet you, and I'm sorry, if you're going to go share the gospel with somebody and you come up and you're like all depressed and like sad and yeah, like Jesus loves me and he loves you too. Like, why would you want to become a Christian if Christianity looked like that? To be honest, like, Christianity doesn't look that appealing because most Christians, like, why would I go, like, give up my life to look so depressed? Why would I give my life to Jesus to look so miserable? When honestly, Christianity and living for Jesus, living on behalf of others, is the most joyful, fulfilling thing you've ever done in your life. I feel like I'm one of the most joyful people on the planet, besides Zadok. Like, sometimes I feel like he tops me in joy. I'm getting my joy up there with him. But, you know, I want people to go, wow, Christianity is way more exciting than what I live, what my life is. Yes, you give up everything. Yes, you surrender your whole life. But it is way more fulfilling and exciting to not live on behalf of yourself. Living for yourself is terrible. Like, living on behalf of others is so joyful. And, okay, let me see what other notes I got here so I can make sure that I'm hitting everything. Yeah, we have hope. And like I said, don't wait until someone is dead to tell them what you think about them. Don't wait don't wait. Tell them how much you love them. Tell them what they mean to you. Tell them how amazing they are. Let's see, what else do we have? Gossip. Oh man, this is a big topic for women, and I'm going to hit it hard today. Gossip is evil. Gossip is a sin. Like, let's look at some scriptures here. I pulled some up right here. I think I screenshotted them real quick. Okay. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only what is helpful for building up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. The words of gossip are like choice morsels. They go down to the inmost parts. Gossip is honestly doing it. People feel real good. Like, have you ever been around a group of girls and then they start gossiping and everyone wants to listen? It's like, ooh, get in on the juice. Ooh. But gossip is evil. Gossip is sin. It doesn't build anyone up. It does not benefit the kingdom. It does not call anybody higher. But honestly, a lot of girls, just being honest, they gossip and they put people down to make themselves feel better. But at the end of the day, they still don't even like themselves. And gossip is one of those things we have to stop right in its tracks and never participate in it. And if you're around a group of girls that is gossiping about people and they're your close friends and you think that they're not talking about you, you're blind. Because the truth is, if someone's willing to talk bad about somebody else, then they're definitely going to go talk to you about you to someone else as well. Just because you think you're close, like, a gossip is a gossip. They gossip about you, whether they say you're the close friend. I've been on the end of that, and I think every girl has probably experienced that at some point. So if you're around someone that's gossiping or a group that's gossiping, leave that. Be like, hey guys, maybe start with, hey, like, let's not talk about this. We're gossiping and let's not do that. And if they're going to be like, oh, no, well, walk away. And you know what? Get a new friend group that's not gossiping. But lead by example. Don't lead by snootiness at all. Don't be snooty about it. But be kind and loving towards them and realize that they are so, like, the truth is, those who are gossiping, they're so insecure about themselves because they have to talk somebody down to make themselves feel better. And I've been caught in the trap before too, of like, you talk about other people to make yourself feel better, because if you can make someone seem worse than you when you don't like yourself, then all of a sudden you think you feel better about yourself. But at the end of the day, it never works. Backbiting, this is what Zadok and I say all the time. Best friends stab each other in the face, not the back. They don't go behind your back and talk bad about you. They tell you to your face, hey, like, when you did this, it really hurt me. Or, like, hey, there's something you're doing in your life. Like, I don't know if you see this blind spot, but like, hey, I thought I'd bring it up to you, and I love you, and you're incredible. Instead of going around to other people and saying all these things, like that doesn't reap anything good. And it also makes it where there is no form of trust. And I feel like, for me, like, I've had a hard time trusting a lot of females. Like, thankfully, the Lord's brought some ladies into my life that I can trust, that aren't gossips. And we aren't gossips. We talk about the Lord. That's what a relationship with a friend should be. Like, yes, you get to do fun things together, but the truth is, like, true friendship, some of the best, greatest friends that I've had, we don't necessarily connect on like activities that we enjoy, but we connect on the God that we serve and that radical fire and hunger for God. And that's what friendship should be based off, because all the other stuff is shallow. And at the same end of the time, like, your hobbies change, but if you continue focus on God, like, that doesn't change. And another thing, let's make sure I'm still recording. But my last point is a lot of people. And I was talking to some gals at BSC, and I've talked to so many, when we don't smile, and with this whole thing of joy. Because a lot of people are like, well, I'm joyful on the inside. But then on the outside, they're like, look like they're going to kill somebody. And I've been guilty of that. I was working this job, and I was really concentrated, and I would have a very focused face. And my boss came up to me and was like, are you mad? Because you have a bleepity bleep face. And I was like, no, I'm not mad. Sorry. I'm just like really focused. And even though she didn't say it kind or anything, it really made me go, man, I need to pay attention to how my face is looking, because on the inside, like, I'm fine. Like, I'm great. Like, I'm not mad. I'm just focused. And I've had so many people use the same excuse that I did, of just like, I'm just focused. But honestly, like, we need to watch our countenance and watch our smile. And even when we're serious, like, you can still have that countenance of joy. And some people tend to have it more, but at the same time, like, instead of that excuse, like, I hear all these people that are like, oh, well, they're just extrovert and I'm an introvert, or different things. I'm like, we keep using so many labels and excuses in our life to excuse us from doing what is right. And like with smiling, and, well, they just are more joyful and I'm just more serious. Okay, well, you can still be joyful and show joy, because like, as a believer, like, we need to be representing the King, and with our countenance, not just our words. And so anyways, one thing with also like smiling is we need to pay attention to that. I've had to train that muscle, and I still have to be like, okay, am I smiling? Like, okay, let me check, let me make sure, especially when I'm like tired or serious, or like at BSC and stuff, and I'm super exhausted and focused and trying to concentrate on stuff. I'm like, okay, let me make sure I'm smiling. Okay, like, it doesn't mean, and I was telling one gal, I'm like, it doesn't mean you walk around like this all the time. It means that like you actually have just like a soft composure and don't look like you're going to kill somebody. And I used to think that like as a woman, like trying to make people take me serious or think that I was, tough, that I had to really look tough and like have that serious face. But the truth is, like, we can be tough and strong and courageous, but we can still smile. Like, having a grumpy looking face does not make you tough at all. So, sorry, I have a bunch of bug bites and one started bleeding. Anyways, and so when you're not smiling and you're not showing that, you're actually stealing from others. You're stealing when you don't speak and encourage others, when you don't engage in conversation with others, when you don't selflessly communicate with people, and actually like when you ignore people or when you glare at them and you don't smile at them, you're actually telling them, hey, you don't have value. Because I was talking to one gal and she's like, I don't know how to talk to people and all that. I'm like, it's okay that like it doesn't feel like it comes naturally to you, but when you choose to go, I'm not going to talk to someone, I'm not going to push myself out of my comfort zone, you're actually going, you don't have value. And so when you smile, you're actually showing people that they have value, and you're stealing the peace like that God has given you and blessed you with, like the smile He's blessed you with, you're stealing. So I stopped my recording right at the end, but I was saying that, when you don't smile, you're stealing from other people. Like, God has called us to be representatives and ambassadors of Him. And you're stealing from others a gift that God designed you to give out, which is your joy, your smile, your personality, and the character that God's put inside of you. And so we need to, as young women, we need to push ourselves out of our comfort zone. We need to be encouragers. We need to stop the gossip in its tracks. And we need to build an attitude and an atmosphere of thanksgiving. So your assignment for this week is to every morning and every evening, you guys need to say what you're thankful for. Maybe write it down, tell somebody else, and you need to encourage at least 3 people every day. For me, I've built it as such a habit in my life. It's not even something I have to think about, but let's start building an atmosphere and an attitude of encouragement, thanksgiving, gratitude, and trust me, the sky will become bluer, the trees will become greener when you begin to walk in that atmosphere and that attitude of thanksgiving and praise. And you will begin to feel such a peace and more of a presence of God when you walk in that. So Lord, I just thank you for everyone listening, God, that you would touch them right now, that you would convict them of where they've been unthankful, ungrateful, and gossiping and not encouraging others, Lord. I ask right now that they would begin to be those who build atmospheres of encouragement, of thanksgiving, and where gossip cannot be present when they enter a room, but only gratitude and thanksgiving and encouragement. And in Jesus' name. Well, love you guys. Please share this video, this podcast, any platform that you've listened on. Please share it with those that you feel that would really be impacted by this. Because the more people that I feel like can hear this message that I wish other people would have told me, I think our world's going to begin to shift. Young ladies, like perspective, like life will begin to shift. And so keep us in your prayers. We have on Wednesday a young men's course starting. And we got 30 something guys coming out. And then we actually fly out in 52 days to Thailand, which we're so excited about. It's getting real. It's crazy. And we got a one-way ticket. So keep us in your prayers. Just for mental clarity and just strength and courage, and that the Lord would presence would so radically rock these guys' hearts at this next course on Wednesday. And I'm just being honest and real with you guys. Like, yesterday was kind of like a rough, hard day, just because I feel like the enemy was attacking me on every area that I preached at the young ladies course. And just to encourage you guys, like, you don't have to stay there. And the area I preached on was like, an area got hit, but I'm full of the joy of the Lord. Like, that's not holding me down. That's not dictating my life. My emotions aren't ruling me. But keep us in your prayers for just like shields of protection in that sense. And God is awesome. Life is awesome. And we are so blessed to get to live on behalf of others.